Hi, my name is Attorney Nicole Christie, and I'm from the Christie Law Firm, and I'm here to talk to you again about DCF and the investigation. We've had some previous videos where we've talked about how the investigation starts, what the process includes, definitions about abuse or neglect, and understanding what that means. And now I want to talk to you about towards the end of the investigation in and of itself. So as I said earlier, DCF has the call. They have to find out if the allegations are true. They're also investigating other areas to make sure that overall this child is safe. And so once they have all of that information, as I noted before, they then have to determine whether or not it's abuse or neglect, whatever the different definitions are, which one applies. And then they have discussions with their supervisor and program supervisor. Once they make those findings, they then call it a substantiation, that here is this abuse that's been substantiated. And what that means is that this child has been abused, and they will also identify who is the perpetrator of that abuse. It's very important that you understand what that means, and they should be sending that to you in writing. Any person who's been substantiated against, where some DCF has made a finding that they have abused or neglected a child, that finding in and of itself can have long-lasting impact on a family. And so what you have to know is that when the DCF worker comes out, sometimes they can make a substantiation finding and still close the case. So some people will say, well, DCF closed my case, so everything is fine. That's not true. They could actually find educational neglects, show that you haven't been sending the kids to school, but by the time the investigation was complete, you had started sending the kids to school, things were fine, there were no other issues, and so they decided to close the case. However, that substantiation will still be on DCF's record and could come back to haunt you sometime in the future. So whenever your investigation ends, what you have to insist upon is getting that documentation in writing, getting the findings in writing, and making sure that you understand why they made that finding. Do not assume that because the DCF investigation closed or the social worker moved on, that everything is fine and that your future is fine when it comes to DCF. Those findings, again, as I said, can have an impact with you on your family. So as the DCF investigation closes and there is a substantiation and you get that documentation, you do have a right to appeal that substantiation and actually have a hearing on it. So if you question whether or not the DCF worker made the right call or whether a DCF investigation team in and of itself made the right call, you do have a right to appeal that process. That is why it's very important that you make sure you get it in writing. I don't care if it takes 3 months before you get that in writing. It's important that you get it in writing, whatever is the substantiation, whatever is the finding of the investigation, because again, it could have long-lasting impact. For example, if you are a teacher and there is some kind of abuse allegation made against you and DCF actually substantiates abuse against you, that could impact your employment. So it's very important that you keep track of what's happening with DCF, get everything in writing, and whenever you're dealing with DCF and you get something in writing, put it in a special little folder, laminate it if you have to, but put it in a special folder so that you know as time goes on, it's into the future, scan it, put it in your Google Drive, but you need to keep that documentation handy, because if something should come up and there's any confusion, there's any glitch with the computer system, at least you have what was sent to you. So the key takeaways from this is whenever you are involved with DCF and there is an investigation, you want to make sure that you get that in writing, whatever their findings are, and you keep that for your records. And as we talk about substantiation process in our next series, you'll understand why it's important to keep that documentation, keep track of it, because it can impact your family in the long run. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. We do give out tips about DCF as well as with our families. And till next time, take care.